Dakota Johnson tearfully shares, she had to give up a lot to be with Jamie Dornan. People think it started with the shoot. But really, it started with the moment I realized I was looking at a married man, and I wanted to stay a little longer. Dakota Johnson, in an exclusive interview with Elle. It's a dreary winter day in Paris. Dakota sits in a historic hotel room on the banks of the Seine, where the Elle France team is preparing to film her first exclusive interview since going public with her relationship with Jamie Dornan. The cameras are on, the lights are on, but Dakota's eyes are still. There's not the glow of a star, but the traces of an internal battle that's lasted nearly a decade. The early days with Jamie, we met when neither of us were allowed to love, Dakota says, her voice soft as a breeze. When Dakota landed the role of Anastasia Steele in 50 Shades of Grey, she was just 24. Jamie was already married and the father of a young daughter. They met at an audition, and something inexplicable happened. It wasn't because he was handsome. It wasn't because of the sex scenes. It was because the way he looked at me, when he looked at me, wasn't like an actor's eyes when he was acting. And the way I looked at him, I couldn't pretend anymore. Dakota says that throughout the filming of the 3 films, they kept a professional distance, but her mind was increasingly drawn to a man she wasn't allowed to love. Hiding in the glory, the success of the film was a trap, Dakota admits. I was hailed as a sex symbol, a phenomenon. But no one knew how lonely I was. She had been in a few relationships, even had a happy time with Chris Martin. But somewhere, Jamie was still a wound that had not healed. I used to sit next to other men, at dinner, laughing, but my heart was thinking about what Jamie was doing in Belfast with his family. Meanwhile, Jamie was still a family man. The happy photos, the articles about the exemplary male actor, only made Dakota feel hateful. I hated myself for loving someone who didn't belong to me. I used to think, I am the third person I despised in TV dramas. The last drink. Then one day, in the middle of an event in Venice, Dakota saw Jamie, holding his wife's hand, walking past, not looking at her once. I went back to the hotel and cried like I had never cried before. Not because I was jealous, but because I knew I had to leave his heart. Dakota decided to cut off contact. No text messages, no meetings, no mentions. She threw herself into her work, making independent films, avoiding anything to do with 50 Shades. The press speculated, the public forgot, but she didn't. I thought I was over him. Until I got a letter. Unsigned. Just 6 words. If you still love me, back, and change. It was Jamie. Sent from a new email address, no profile picture. It took her 2 weeks to reply, with just 1 word. Always. A few months later, Jamie got divorced. The world was shocked, but for Dakota, it was the moment the world collapsed. I should have been happy. But I felt like I had ruined something sacred. I loved him. But the price was too high. Dakota lost 2 advertising contracts because of her image damage. A female director announced that she would no longer work with her. Fans were divided. Some supported her, others called her a husband stealer. What did she lose? The host asked. Looking back, what do you think you gave up the most to be with Jamie Dornan? Dakota was silent for a long time. Then she burst into tears, for the first time during the interview. I gave up my innocence. Since I fell in love with him, I'm no longer the girl who believes in simple love. I gave up my reputation, my professional relationships, and my self-respect, but I also found something else, my heart. I lived honestly, even if it was painful. I don't want you to choose me for a sin. After the shocking interview, a wave of sympathy began to rise for Dakota. Her critics gradually realized, behind the stage lights, behind the forced smiles, was a woman who had suffered too much, between reason and heart. But Dakota's tears were not to win sympathy. They were confessions, and also her own release. Jamie watched the interview in a small apartment in Dublin, where he was filming an independent drama, far from the noise of Hollywood. The next morning, he flew to Paris, no announcements, no press, no flowers. Just him, and her. When Dakota opened the door, Jamie stood there, bare-armed, eyes red from lack of sleep. They didn't speak for the first 10 seconds, then Jamie spoke up, "I didn't come here to apologize. I came because I wanted you to know, you're not alone." Dakota lowered her head and whispered, "I don't want you to choose me because of guilt. I want you to choose me, because you can't help it." Jamie smiled, pulling her into his arms. A hug that lasted as long as the rest of the world no longer existed. Life outside the glory. They left the center of Paris just a few days later. They rented a small chalet in Provence, among the purple lavender fields, where there were no cameras, no gossip, and no one recognized them. Dakota put her phone in a drawer and locked it. Jamie kept only a film camera, to record moments that would never be posted. They lived like a normal couple. Early in the morning, they went to the market to buy bread. Sitting on the balcony in the sun at noon, afternoon reading, cooking, and watching French movies without subtitles. "It was the first time in my life that I had been loved without being judged," Dakota wrote in her diary. "We were no longer Christian and Anna. No longer stars of a scandal. We were just Jamie and Dakota." Forgiveness from the most unexpected person. One rainy afternoon, Dakota received an email. The sender, Amelia Warner. She hesitated for a long time before opening it. Then, with the longest sigh of her life, she clicked, read. From Amelia Warner. Subject, "No more resentment. Dakota, I know you think I hate you. And I thought I would never be able to look at you without feeling hurt, but I have learned to distinguish between love and possession. Jamie is not mine. Not taken away. He was the one who changed, and she was the reason he had the courage to be true to his heart. I don't know how long your relationship will last, but if it is, I hope you never have to love in the dark like I loved him in his later years. I don't bless you. I don't curse you. I just let go. Goodbye, Amelia." Dakota cried, a lot. But this time, they were tears of release. She printed out the letter, not in her phone, but clipped it to the last page of her favorite book, Just Kids by Patti Smith. "Because I will never forget, the woman I thought was my rival, the only one who taught me how to love without holding on." Quote,